They say one rarely notices the instant of transformation. The line between what you were and what you've become fades like ink in water. I still remember when my hands were human. Once, I was Kale Vor, planetary governor of Marinus 4, a world of modest wealth and dutiful loyalty. The administratum reports marked us as compliant, tithes paid on time, recruitment quotas met without protest. My family had ruled for generations, not with ambition but with quiet efficiency. We sought no glory. We simply served the golden throne, as countless billions across the stars do. No one could have predicted my fall. Not even I. Corruption does not announce itself, it arrives like a whisper, disguised as clarity. It began during the Festival of Compliance, that dreary celebration of 5 centuries under Imperial rule. The skies hung low with grey clouds pressing upon the spires of our hive city. From the balcony of the gubernatorial palace, I looked down upon the crowds, their faces uplifted in vacant devotion. I should have felt pride. Instead, I felt only disdain. How many generations had we squandered in servitude to a corpse god who gave nothing in return? How many of our sons and daughters had been fed to wars fought on nameless worlds for causes none could name? The questions came unbidden, thoughts I had never before dared to entertain. Yet once stirred, they would not leave. That night, sleep abandoned me. Visions clawed at my mind, of futures I had never considered. In the stillness, I heard a voice. At first faint, nearly indistinguishable from my own thoughts. It spoke of freedom, of power waiting to be seized, of life beyond imperial chains. I told no one. Outwardly, I remained the dutiful governor, signing reports, overseeing resources, presiding over disputes. But beneath the surface, I had changed. The flaws of the Imperium revealed themselves everywhere. Inefficiency, cruelty, waste disguised as necessity. And the voice grew louder. It whispered of gods older than the Emperor, gods who did not demand obedience, but rewarded ambition. I resisted, at least at first. I threw myself deeper into imperial piety. I commissioned a grand statue of the Emperor. I ordered executions of suspected heretics, watching their bodies burn with disturbing intensity. Yet denial only sharpened the whispers. The visions grew vivid. I saw myself as more than a governor. I saw an army at my command, my name carried across the stars, power beyond measure. The descent was gradual, easy to dismiss. Small compromises. Hidden indulgences. Secret texts that should have been destroyed. Unrecorded messages exchanged with figures who did not officially exist. Then came the first mark. On the solstice night, I awoke with a spiral seared into my chest above the heart. No pain, no wound, it looked as though it had always been there. I should have recoiled. Instead, I felt pride. Proof that I was chosen. That my destiny reached beyond imperial chains. The voice revealed its name, Zafan, emissary of the changer of ways. It did not demand servitude, but offered partnership. From then, my course quickened. I altered the flow of Marinus 4's governance. Resources quietly redirected. Certain industries advanced. Specific officials raised to prominence, those who shared my doubts about imperial rule. The Imperium's bureaucracy is a labyrinth. 1,000 changes can drown within its paper tides. By the time anyone noticed, it would already be too late. The mark upon my chest spread slowly, spirals branching across my flesh like roots. My dreams grew stranger, filled with impossible geometries and alien symbols. Patterns of reality revealed themselves to me like a mechanism unmasked. My first undeniable heresy came a year later. The Adeptus Mechanicus sent a delegation to audit our industries. Among them was Magos Drenv, more machine than man, with augmetic eyes that saw too much. In private, he confronted me. "Your reports show anomalies, Governor Vor," he rasped. "Allocations that defy efficiency. Variances beyond statistical parameters." I knew then I had a choice. I could retreat, fabricate excuses, delay the inevitable, or step fully into the path offered me. I chose. What happened in that chamber remains fragmented in memory, like shattered glass. I recall Zafan's voice guiding me, symbols glowing in the air, reality bending at my will. I remember Dren's mechanical eyes widening, in fear, then awe. When he left, he was changed. 2 days later, the delegation departed. Their report praised Marinus 4's exceptional efficiency, urging Mars to study our methods. There was no mention of irregularities. Instead, I had won my first true ally, Magos Drenv, the first member of what would become my inner circle. I gathered my inner circle, beings as altered as myself, each shaped by a different path of revelation. Margot Reneve existed half in real space, half in the warp, his augmetics fused with raw Empyrean energy into a form that defied classification. Others bore transformations just as profound. I laid out the dilemma without judgment and allowed them to speak. The council unfolded on many levels at once: spoken words, psychic resonance, shifting symbols. Some urged non-intervention, dismissing Marinus IV's doom as irrelevant. Others demanded open war against the Inquisition. A few, like myself, perceived something greater in the decision. The choice, however, was mine alone. I chose intervention, but not the crude, human notion of battle. Instead, we devised an operation of exquisite complexity, drawing upon our sorcerer science and the Enclave's hidden resources. Not armies and firepower, but subtlety. Our techno-sorcerers fashioned a dimensional fold, not a portal, but an overlay of space, linking our domain with Marinus IV. Through it, we began the great extraction. Families vanished from hapblocks to reappear in our sanctuaries. Not en masse, that would invite suspicion, but according to patterns so precise they resembled natural demographic decline. Lad deceptions masked the absences: psychic echoes, holograms, temporal distortions. Months passed in Imperial time, while within the fold, subjective time bent to our will. My consciousness stretched across both realms, bearing the strain. The wound Hyperion had left upon me, long healed in flesh, but not in essence, threatened collapse at every turn. To my surprise, the fragment of humanity within me became an anchor, enduring where I faltered. When the evacuation neared completion, the Inquisition detected irregularities. They descended with overwhelming force: lockdown protocols, null fields, psychic dampers. Their methods threatened to collapse the fold, trapping millions mid-translation, a disaster that would ravage both warp and real space. I acted. Manifesting an avatar of myself upon Marinus IV, I walked again through the city that had once been mine. The capital lay draped in psychic residue, past and present layered like strata. I entered the gubernatorial palace, now twisted into an inquisitorial fortress, null wards humming, statues of imperial saints overwritten with Ordo Hereticus sigils. At its heart stood the null generator, the keystone of their resistance. It was forged from forbidden science and stolen Zeno's artifice, hypocrisy made manifest. Destruction would unleash catastrophe. Instead, I recalibrated it, inverting its harmonics to amplify rather than suppress the fold. Then she appeared. Inquisitor Lord Helen Darrow, once a minor acolyte who had stood before me long ago. Now armored, flanked by assassins, Vindicare in disguise, a Culexus cloaked in the aura of silence. "I knew you would return," she said. "Heretics always return to the place of their undoing." "You watched me even before my fall," I replied. "The Ordo Hereticus watches all who wield power. Probability alone foretold your corruption." Their suspicion had birthed the very heresy they feared. Without their eyes upon me, would Zaphan's whispers have rooted so deep? "And now you would damn an entire world for the sins of one man?" I asked. "The corruption of a ruler spreads like rot," she quoted coldly. "Better to cut away the flesh than let it spread." "There is always another way," I said, completing my work. I triggered the generator. For a heartbeat, inquisitorial senses went blind. In that instant, my primary self seized the fold. Millions vanished from Marinus IV, translated into our domain. To Imperial eyes, the world was suddenly silent, its population erased. The psychic shock staggered even the Culexus. The Vindicare loosed one round, but the distortion bent its path through air already unraveling. My manifestation dissolved, unraveling as I withdrew. Darrow's face was the last thing I saw, not rage, but cold acceptance. She understood this event would echo for centuries. I returned to the Enclave, reintegrating fractured selves. Before me stood the mysterious visitor who had set this trial in motion, satisfaction evident in his shifting form. "You chose well," he said. "Neither abandonment nor destruction, but a path serving many purposes at once. The rescued millions would be clay for our reshaping. The Inquisition would adapt, and in doing so, would feed further change. The trial is complete," he declared. A gesture tore open a wound in reality, revealing the impossible fortress, the domain of Tzeentch himself. Few mortals ever beheld such a place. Here lay demonhood, annihilation, or transcendence. I stepped forward. My human fragment trembled with fear, not of death, but of surrender. Yet I knew this step had always awaited me. Only the manner of my journey had been mine to choose. Through the rift I dissolved into information, into pattern. The court of change unfolded. lords of change circling like living paradoxes, ideas made flesh. At the heart, Tzeentch, not form, but vast intent. My path had woven a unique configuration he sought to preserve. The final choice lay before me: surrender wholly and ascend as a demon prince, or preserve my singular independence. I chose the latter. Independence within service, unpredictability within loyalty. The paradox itself was my worth. Power consumed me, reshaping me into something beyond mortal, yet not bound entirely to demonhood. When awareness returned, I stood transformed. My perception spanned stars and atoms alike. The visitor revealed himself fully, a lord of change, judge and guide of my ascension. The architect is pleased, he said. You will be his champion, not holy demon, not holy man, but a bridge. Then he was gone, leaving me to my new charge. The people of Marinus IV, bewildered refugees, would be the seed of a new society unshackled by imperial dogma. I would lead them, test them, change them. At the edges of our realm, threats gathered: imperial fleets, rival champions of chaos, curious Xenos. The future branched infinitely, each path a reflection of Tzeentch's sphere. Kael Vor was no more. In his place stood a champion of the changer of ways, servant and master, creator and creation, an eternal becoming. This is the true reward, not fixed immortality, but ceaseless transformation. Not knowledge, but understanding of endless possibility. I am no longer Kael Vor. I am his consequence. I am the paradox made flesh. I am change.